Welcome back to my new video. Today's discussion is Kant, Gandhi, and Tagore, Ethical Foundations of Peace, presented by Phil for Philosophy.
Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we all talk about wanting peace, but what does it actually take to get there? It's way more than just stopping a fight. So today, we're going to dig into 3 totally different and brilliant blueprints for lasting peace. We've got one from an architect, one from an activist, and one from an artist. Okay, so let's start with the big, basic question. When you and I talk about peace, what are we actually picturing? Is it just the absence of war? You know, that quiet moment when the guns go silent? Or is there something deeper, something more to it?
Well, this is where we hit a really important idea, the difference between what some call negative peace and positive peace. Now, negative peace, that's what we usually think of. It's a ceasefire, right? The fighting has stopped. But that kind of peace can be super fragile. Positive peace, on the other hand, is about building something to last. It's the active presence of things like justice and fairness, having systems in place that actually let people flourish. It's not just a pause button on conflict. It's a whole different operating system.
All right, so our first blueprint. This one comes from way back in the 18th century, from the philosopher Immanuel Kant. And for Kant, peace wasn't some happy accident that just happens. No way. For him, it was a full-on architectural project, something you had to deliberately design and construct, using reason and law as your tools. See, in Kant's mind, a simple truce wasn't peace at all. He saw it as just a break between wars, a halftime show. Real, true, perpetual peace had to be a permanent state of being, a legal and moral order built on a foundation of justice so solid that it just couldn't be easily shaken. So how do you build this thing? Well, Kant started by laying out some ground rules, what he called his preliminary articles. Think of it like clearing the construction site before you start building. The whole point was to stop the endless cycle of conflict. So things like banning secret treaties or outlawing actions that destroy trust. These were the essential first steps to get a stable foundation. Okay, so once that foundation was set, Kant proposed 3 massive pillars to hold the whole thing up. Pillar 1, nations need to be republican. And by that, he meant governed with the people's consent. Because let's be real, it's the citizens who pay the ultimate price of war. Pillar 2, a federation of free states. Basically, a voluntary league where countries could handle their disagreements with laws, not with violence. And Pillar 3, this was a huge one, cosmopolitan rights. This was the radical idea that every single person has basic rights that go way beyond national borders. So, if Kant gave us the top-down architectural blueprint, our next thinker, Mahatma Gandhi, kind of flips the script. He shows us how to build peace from the ground up. He shifted the focus completely. For Gandhi, peace wasn't some grand structure handed down by governments. It was a personal, moral commitment, something you achieve through disciplined individual action. At the absolute heart of Gandhi's philosophy is this idea of satyagraha. The word literally means insistence on truth, but he called it soul force. And it's an incredibly powerful way to confront injustice, not with fists or weapons, but with the sheer, unshakable force of your own moral courage. And this is really the core of his whole method. He drew this bright, clear line between what he called brute force, physical power, and soul force. Here's the kicker. Soul force isn't about defeating your opponent. It's about converting them. The entire goal is to appeal to their conscience, to wake up their sense of what's right, and bring everyone back to a shared moral ground. This brings us to maybe his most powerful principle, and it's captured perfectly in this quote about the seed and the tree. Think about it. For Gandhi, you just can't grow a peaceful society using violent seeds. It's impossible. The way you do things, the means, has to reflect the world you're trying to build. The means, in the end, they're not separate. They're one and the same. Okay, but what if all the laws in the world, and even the most disciplined, non-violent action, still aren't enough? Well, our final thinker, the amazing poet and philosopher Rabindranath Tagore, would say they're both missing a key ingredient. For Tagore, the real, true source of peace, it lies in cultivating the human spirit. Tagore was a fierce critic of what he called aggressive nationalism. He saw how this kind of blind, almost robotic patriotism just creates an us versus them world. It builds these huge walls between people and makes conflict pretty much inevitable. And he argued that this was the exact opposite of what humanity actually needed to find peace. So what was his answer? In a word, culture.
He was convinced that education through art and music and literature, that was the real key. And this wasn't just about making pretty things for entertainment. No, for him, it was about cultivating empathy. Art gives us the power to imagine the lives of others, to feel what they feel. And that's the magic ingredient for tearing down those walls between us.
Ultimately, what Tagore was getting at was a kind of spiritual humanism. He saw all of us, the entire human race, as one big, interconnected moral community. So for him, peace wasn't really about treaties or tactics. It was about waking up to this deep, underlying unity that we all share, a unity that goes way beyond any national or cultural borders.
So there you have it. 3 really powerful visions: the architect, the activist, and the artist. Let's put it all together and see how they connect. And this is where it all clicks into place. You see, real lasting peace isn't just one thing. It kind of feels like you need all 3. You need the political and legal framework from Kant, you need the ethical, on-the-ground action of Gandhi, and you need that shared cultural empathy from Tagore. It's like a 3-legged stool: structure, action, and spirit. You try to take away any one of those legs, and the whole thing just collapses. So, that really leaves us with a huge question for today, for right now. Which of these paths does our world need most? Do we need more structure, more action, or more spirit? Or maybe the real challenge is figuring out how we can possibly walk all 3 of those paths at the exact same time.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages me to create more content. Thank you.